Welcome to What the Health? The podcast where anything health is fair game. There's a lot of garbage advice and misinformation out there that can leave you feeling stumped and stuck. Together, let's sift through the sea of BS and find the best ways to get healthy and stay healthy. Join the team as we tackle the trends and bust the myths about health and wellness. Here are your hosts, Dr. Dan Turo, Angela Turo, and Dr. Riley Brown.
Welcome back, everyone. This is part 2 with our professional chef, Sofya Stearns. In that first part, we talked a lot about just your personal journey with some of the healing and some of what you experienced. But I love right at the end of that, we started getting into the, how you, well, not how, because we're going to talk about that right now, but some of the cooking that you got led into. So I can't wait to hear your story. But before I ask you about that, I just want to share, we got to participate in a class that you did for our referral network group. And we did it as a social event, and we came in, and what an amazing, just team social fun experience that was. Team building. Like, we had such a good time. And again, as part of your referral networking group, sometimes you don't know those people as well as, your family and friends, because they're acquaintances. But we had such a fun time. Of course, there was wine and amazing food, and you taught us some incredible recipes. One of them being I'm going to pronounce it wrong, bruschetta.
Bruschetta.
Yeah. See, I can't roll my R's. I've never been able to do that.
You're trying.
I think it's a genetic trait. I think, and I did not get it. But yeah. And Erin, my wife, she made me make it like 2 or 3 nights in a row after. It was incredible. So, yes, I need to do it again. But yeah, taking your class was so fun. So, I really tell anyone who, and she's not paying me for this, but I tell anyone who, has an opportunity to, go to your house and, or you do cooking in other areas?
I do go to people's homes or wherever they want to have actually hold a class. Absolutely.
So it's such a good experience. Team building, if you've got
it's very popular.
If you've got a small business, or you've got a team that just wants to get together.
I have doctors, lawyers, financial advisors, you name it.
Yeah. So what a fun experience that was, and we definitely plan to come back. So tell me, how did you become Chef Sofya?
So I started my business 10 years ago. At that time, Isabella was only 4 years old. What a cute age, I know. A friend of mine, she said, why don't you do something similar to where Isabella goes? And Isabella was taking a art class and science classes from stay-home moms. And she said, maybe you should do the same thing, but with cooking, because every time we come to your house, the kids love baking or cooking with you. And they look forward to coming to your house, and you're not afraid to make a mess, and they don't care if, you're not upset with them. Do something with kids, because you speak all those languages, and Isabella is fluent in different languages, in Russian, and she loves classical music, and I want my kids to be loving that as well. And I said, well, I don't think so, but thanks. I'm not even going to think about it. She said, well, think about it. Talk to these ladies who are stay-home moms as well, and they're doing something fun for the kids. So I emailed them and I said, do you mind if I have your email list? I'm thinking of maybe doing a cooking class, and I don't want to step on anyone's toes. However, perhaps I could do something like that. And they said, absolutely, here's the email list. So I did my first class at the Cider House of Treesdale Community Center. And before the class was over, the moms were saying, well, what is the email again? Or what is the name of your business again? We cannot find your website. And when is that next class? I think we missed something. And I said, well, to be honest, I don't have any of it because this is my first class and I'm not really sure if I'll continue with it. They said, oh my God, absolutely, you have to continue. And that was it.
What a great testimonial, right?
It is. That's the best way. Because I was contemplating. I knew exactly how to teach my child.
Yes.
But I wasn't sure how to teach other kids, right? I used to teach math in college for fun, to make extra money actually, but they were adults. I didn't know how to teach kids, right? It was just all new to me.
Yes.
So that was it. And then half a year later, or perhaps 9 months later, somebody wrote a article about me, about my cooking classes, because they're so different. Because with each dish, I take kids on a virtual tour of the country of dish's origin. So if we make, for example, scones, I'll take them to England.
Yes.
If we make calzones, or a bruschettas,
Yes.
I will take them to Italy and I'll teach them Italian. I'll teach them the capital of Italy. We'll talk about landmarks, colors of the flag, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
We always do dance because it's fun.
Nice.
And it's always, I always teach them a few words of that language. Because the importance is, why wouldn't you want to know where your favorite dish is from? If you love sushi, why wouldn't you want to know how to say a few words in Japanese?
Yeah.
Or to know the capital of Japan. And it actually is from Japan.
Yeah.
So that was it. And then I started this, and then the parents started to say, well, what about us? We like food and we like wine. And I'm like, sure, I'll do that. So I did the first cooking class for adults. It was sold out within a day. And I think it was a sushi class in Agros. Who doesn't like sushi? And it's very intimidating.
Yeah.
However, once you know how to make it, it's easy and you can be creative with it.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then during COVID, I lost my business overnight, as a lot of businesses, but I felt very blessed because my husband still had a job and we had a roof over our heads. And we were okay, and I always said, as long as we're healthy, we're okay. We will make it. Yeah. It's only temporary. The normality will come back, and that's it, obviously. Yes. I was watching the news. I had nothing else to do, obviously. Isabella was in school, virtual school, and I saw the most compelling interview was done by Richard Engel. He's an NBC correspondent. He does a lot of international, he goes to a lot of war sites, actually. Okay. He had a child with Brett's disease, and usually, and I Googled it up, it's usually for girls, and it's detected when they're older, maybe like 2 or 3 years old. He had a boy, and it was detected right away when he was an infant. Okay. And he said, everyone is saying now that they're all depressed, and we cannot really don't see anyone, and we're inside of our homes. But he said, think about it. We can still talk to each other, right? We can communicate. However, for my child, all this PT we did, he's regressing now faster than we possibly could. And I said, I'm not doing anything. Might as well reach out to the organizations who work with disabled. Maybe I can do something. And I emailed, and for weeks and weeks, I was emailing and calling and leaving messages for organizations. Unfortunately, they're all shut down as well. Sure. One place did call me back, NATS. It's a National Down Syndrome Organization out of Chicago. Okay. And they said, Sofya, we would love to work with you, but we don't have any funds. And I said, I'm not looking for funds. I'm going to help you. And that was it. I started working with them. A few years back, they told me that I actually saved their lives, which I had no idea. I was doing my thing once a month. We would get together. I would have my chef's coat on or a cute apron with little pizzas on it. Yeah. I wore Uggs as my shoes, and I was comfortable. It was a Zoom class. Nobody saw me right from the waist down. Yes. And we had fun. We would make dishes. I would send them a list with ingredients and supplies they need, and I still work with them, actually. And they would prep everything, and we would just make a dish, and we would eat. Some people have a glass of wine. I was like, heck, I'll have a glass of wine as well with you. So we did like a virtual happy hour kind of deal. It was amazing, and I still do that with them. And I love working with them. And it makes me happy that I actually saved someone. And then I said, well, okay, so I live in Pittsburgh. Why don't I help and do the same thing with Pittsburgh? So I work with Autism in Pittsburgh, and I work with DSAP,
Down Syndrome
Association in Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. And then I started working with families who are touched by cancer, and I work with Cancer Bridges. And then I started working with, it's called Connecting Champions. They are children who have a passion of some sort. So the person I work with, she has passion for cooking. Okay. But those are the kids who have cancer or developed cancer. In addition to the person I work with, Joy, she's amazing. I love that girl. She's 18 years old. In addition to her having cancer when she was little, she also has Down syndrome. And I know how to work with her because I'm a pro. I love working with those families. They're the most appreciative kids and young adults and I know I can help them. Did I know I can work with those communities? I had no idea. It just kind of fell on me, like my business.
Well, and again, that's such an amazing story because you just you could feel that it just hit you. Obviously there was downtime in there because of the pandemic, so probably just thinking like, how can you help, and that story hits you, and then the big thing that a lot of people don't do, they'll feel that stirring inside them, but then they won't act on it.
Right.
Like, I applaud you for going and acting on it.
I feel like this is my passion now. I also started. For a few years now, I've been working with Passman Hospital Foundation, Bridge to Hope, and they're the families who have addicts in their families. And the stories I hear, and I'm very touched that those people open up to me and they tell me why they ended up in this class. And they said, "We love you, Chef Sofya. I'm glad I'm in this class. However, there's a downside for it because they have a child or a loved one with addiction." Which is really sad.
Well, and so what's very inspiring to hear you talk about this is that so many times, and I see this in my practice, where someone will come in and they don't necessarily know what's going on with them, or they have a diagnosis. That diagnosis becomes their identity.
Their identity.
You're seeing the humanity. You're seeing right through that. And again, it doesn't mean that you don't address, certain challenges that come with, a diagnosis. Again, my wife and I, we have our second son has Down syndrome. He's 10 years old. And we actually were very blessed that we got an after birth diagnosis. So we got Sammy came into the world, and, it was 2 or 3 months before he was officially diagnosed. There were signs, and people brought stuff up to us like, maybe this is, he could have it. But we didn't rush to, go and get him tested because, again, he was eating well. Again, we're very blessed. Other than, a couple minor things, he was very healthy. And so we got to learn,
enjoy him without
embrace him,
without a label,
embrace him and his humanity, as a new baby, not with the identity label.
Absolutely. And it's just the label. Yes, it's sometimes some cases are more severe than others.
Sure.
And yes, it is very, when I started working with them, I was heartbroken, to be honest, for a few months, just because it's hard to see. Some of them, it's very hard to understand them. Some of them are hard to understand.
Absolutely.
But they're so amazing because they know that it's hard for me to understand them. So other people try to tell me what the person just said.
Yeah.
And at first I felt very uncomfortable and a little bit embarrassed that I was like, oh my God, I cannot understand what she or he's saying. However, it's okay.
Yeah.
And they understand that, and somebody else is going to help me.
Yeah.
And I love it. So they work as a team.
Yeah.
And we still have fun together.
Yeah.
Right? We always talk about, we always play different trivias, which are so much fun.
Yeah.
And to see them laugh and cracking up and drinking wine, like, what's wrong with that? That's amazing. And, I have to say that the parents are so appreciative.
Yeah.
Because they just enjoy it. They see their child or young adult or an adult have had so much fun doing this, right?
Yeah.
Why not?
Absolutely.
And it's all about having fun.
Yeah.
And life is too short, and we're all different, right? This child or an adult might have a Down syndrome or might have autism, but this is just what happened.
Yeah.
It's an extra chromosome for Down syndrome, or perhaps autism was by something else. You will have no idea.
Yeah.
So who are we to judge, to say that, this person is different than I am?
Yeah,
He's not different or she's not different. We're different because maybe I'm taller, maybe I'm whatever, but God gave me my height.
You speak Russian, I don't.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. You went to medical school, I had to drop out because I cannot see blood. However, we're all the same. We're here to be there for each other. And it's so important. And this is where, a year ago, I wrote a book basically to stop judging. Yeah. The book was written about families with only one child.
Okay.
And
tell Talk to us about that a little bit more. So you have Isabella. How old is Isabella now?
14.
14. Yes, my oldest is 14, so I feel
Great
you're on
age.
that right.
Great age.
Yes.
This is where wine comes in handy.
Yes.
It took me forever to have my child, and I had a lot of mishaps and miscarriages and trips to the hospital. It was a very painful experience to basically do even. Once I was pregnant, it was easy, but it was very hard for me to get to that, being pregnant, to have a child. And once I had her, I was the happiest human being. I was 42. I was an older mom, I guess, but I couldn't wait. I couldn't believe that I finally had my little girl. Plus, I was blessed that I was able to have a girl and to name her after my grandmother. So that was amazing. But then all the judgment came in. People are saying that I'm selfish because I only have one child.
Without knowing anything about you.
Because I didn't really share anything.
Yeah.
And people would say, well, if Isabella dies, you're going to be childless. What if she needs a organ donor? You won't be able to provide her. It was just horrible. And so a few years back, I decided, to share. So through my cooking classes, I meet a lot of parents, and I have a handful of families with only one child. And they were kind enough to tell me their story, why they only have one child. Some families adopted their kids, some families use the egg donor, sperm donor, you name it. Mm-hmm. So I knew all the stories. And I talked to my editor because I had another book in mind. And I said, why don't I write this book? What do you think of this subject? It's just that it's brilliant. Nice. So the book is really about families, 41 families with only one child. And it talks about infertility. I'm one of them. Yeah. IVF, adoption, you name it. Or a life choice. And the book is not really about what the human had to go through to have this child. It's about judgment, to stop judgment. Don't ever judge a book by its cover. Don't ever judge a family for the decision they have made. And what makes me sad is that, for example, you're in a setting, you're in a restaurant, and you see this child having a tantrum. You automatically assume that the parents are crappy parents. Yeah. And they let their child to have a tantrum, and the other people are trying to enjoy their dinner or lunch. However, did you ever stop and think? Perhaps the child has a disability. Yeah. Did you ever stop and think? Perhaps a child is coming down with something. Did you ever stop and think that those parents are as embarrassed as you would think they are, but there's nothing they can do about it? And perhaps this is the first outing in so long that they decided to take this child out. Did you ever stop and think this child, no matter what he looks like, it's their pride and joy? Yeah. But people are so quick to judge. Yeah. And this book is, it's doing, I never thought where this book will take me, but I've met so many. I already had 4 book signings, and I get about 25 to 30 people per book signing, and people open up and they talk about their lives. Yeah. And it's not just the families with one child, it's families with 7 kids. And there's families here, well, don't you know there's a TV? Like, basically 7 is enough, but why are you judging a family of 7 kids? Yeah. Perhaps you're jealous, perhaps you're envy, perhaps you're not happy with your life. Yeah. There's always this, but don't ever judge, basically. Yeah. And the same thing when I work with those families who have disabled in their family. They have a lot of judgment coming their way. Yeah. But the saddest part is, I think every family has in the back of their mind, what will happen to my baby once I'm gone? Yeah. It doesn't matter how much money in the bank you have. Yeah. It doesn't really matter what you have materialistically for the child, for that human.
Yeah, however, the relationship is going.
And the child with a disability might be left alone, right? And I learned this from listening to other families, and I feel extremely blessed that those families open up to me, and those families give me a chance to teach their loved ones. Yeah. What I know, what I do the best now, we make amazing food. Bruschettas. Yes. Just listen how the wife saying it.
Yes, I'm gonna get it.
And we dance and we learn languages. And some families are might not have a chance to travel internationally. However, through my cooking, I take them to those places.
Yeah.
And it makes me happy.
That's such an inspiring story. And so let me ask you this, because you shared a little bit in the last part about, because of your experience with some of the bullying, and when you teach a class with kids, they you can really recognize where that bullying is taking place and call it out. Do you feel the same way with the judgment? Are you able to recognize it because of your experience?
Right away.
Okay.
Right away. Because even, talking, I was amazed by how many women opened up to me during the process of writing this book. And I was judged by the strangers. They were judged by the family members.
Mm-hmm.
And it was shocking to me that the family member can actually do this to another family member.
Yeah.
It's just not acceptable. And when I hear, even anywhere you go and you hear the way people talk to each other, even in a business setting, I call this, well, first of all, toughen up, buttercup. Things are, life is not easy.
No, it's
it's okay to hear negative things pointed at you. It's okay, but it's the way they're said as well.
Yeah.
Right? If you're wrong in something, I'm allowed to call you out on that. Absolutely, I'm allowed. If you're not doing something right. But I think it's the intonation, and I think it's the way we say it. Because I think it's important. Yeah. Like I always say, we're not perfect. And if I'm doing something wrong, or if my dish doesn't taste as good as it should, I want somebody to tell me that. But it's the way you're going to say it to me, right? Just say that perhaps, you can add more salt, or we can add some of this, or whatever. That's a simple example.
Yeah.
But it's the way it's said.
Yeah.
It's okay to judge someone, absolutely, right? But you have to know how to judge it.
Yeah.
And maybe judgment is a bad word, but you criticize. But it's okay to correct it.
Yeah.
It's absolutely okay.
Yeah.
But it's the way it's said.
Constructive feedback.
Feedback, yes.
Instructive feedback.
Yes.
Not judgment. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
It's only normal.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you sharing, Chef Sofya. So remind us, where can we get a copy of your book? And
Amazon.
Okay.
Yes.
And
it's called The One and Only, by faith or by choice.
Excellent.
And you buy it on Amazon. If you're local, I will deliver it to you, and I'll sign it personally. Yes. And then I like to choose I'd like to give 20% or 30% of my proceeds to an organization which I'll be choosing. Sometimes it's either infertility or Down syndrome, or whatever I choose.
Well, and that's, again, it's such a beautiful, you're such a beautiful human being. And I'm so glad that you have that, that attitude, and maybe, again, probably partly born with it, partly, carved out through experience, but you're not afraid. You're not afraid to call people out on their bullshit.
I'm bullshit.
See, I always have to slip at least one in there, just to,
I don't like to filter. I filter with kids when I work with kids. When I work with adults, I don't filter.
There you go. Well, thank you. I think we're gonna pause it here, and then we're gonna come back and talk a little bit more about your pride and joy, Isabella, and her impact with you as her story as a dancer.
Dancer, yes.
Yep. So thank you for stopping. Check out the next one.
You've been listening to another episode of What the Health? The podcast where anything health is fair game, with your hosts, Dr. Dan, Angela, and Dr. Riley. Brought to you by Churro Family Chiropractic. If you'd like to learn more about some of the resources mentioned on this show, or you have questions about something that was discussed, please reach out through our website at www.turofamilychiropractic.com. Remember to like and subscribe to What the Health Podcast to catch all the latest episodes and replay your favorites. Thank you for listening, and remember, we're always here to help when you find yourself saying, "What the hell?"